Welcome to Bloodbath & Beyond. I'm Jay, and today I'll be reviewing Honeydew. You must be starving. Honeydew is the directorial debut of Devereux Milburn and stars Malin Barr, Barbara Kingsley, Stephen D'Ambrose, Jamie Bradley, and Sawyer Spielberg, the son of Steven Spielberg, in his first ever film performance. This movie's about Sam and Riley, a young couple going on a road trip. They've decided to go to rural areas so that Riley can do some research on her thesis about some kind of fungal infection in wheat germ and stuff like that. The couple decide to pull over on some rural road because they don't have reception, they can't find a hotel, and they decide to just set up camp here. Unfortunately, the landowner decides to tell them to get the hell off his land and go find shelter somewhere else. So they do. They find an old country home with a woman named Karen, who's just an elderly lady, with her odd son, Goonie. From here, nothing in the house seems right at all. Karen's very strange, and Goonie is wrapped up in bandages. But because the couple are abandoned, they're kind of forced to wait for somebody who Karen's called to come pick them up, or wait till the morning and they can just be on their way. Now this is brand new, so I'm going to try and avoid major spoilers, but there are weird things happening here and I am going to talk a little bit about them. So first off, this movie looks great. Like it's shot incredibly well. The lighting is really cool and they were able to create such a weird, strange, and awkward atmosphere. And with this couple, as they're in a strange place, they don't know what's going on. They're kind of acting strange themselves while they're in Karen's home. You as an audience member feel that. Like it's fucking weird. This Goonie guy is just sitting there watching Popeye constantly. He doesn't talk, he just kind of like grumbles. You know that something's off, but you don't know quite what it is. You do find out later, thankfully, because I would have been pissed if we didn't. And I think the sound design is also really awesome, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that hate it. Because it's more like Hereditary. If you've seen Hereditary, you hear all the knocks and like the kind of weird modern sounds. But if you've seen Hereditary, you'll know that this seems like it's an Ari Aster version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre almost. The acting was really solid from all of the cast, but the characters are kind of strange. We'll talk about that later. But I think people did a good job with what they were given. They definitely made me feel awkward. I think Karen was the best because sometimes this old lady would just be talking and then she'd just stop and be looking at food or doing something. She's always concerned with food. Then you'd have Sam and Riley trying to talk to her and she like just doesn't listen. And they're just like constantly getting louder trying to talk to her and she just like ignores them. So it was really creepy in that aspect, and so I think that the acting was really good because you can see the frustration on the couple's faces and then her just completely ignoring it is excellent. Without spoiling too much, towards the end when you start to see what's really going on here, it gets a little strange. And while it's not an extreme film, and I'm not talking about gore, I just think the situations are really weird, more so than the awkwardness in the house. And I can tell you, this movie's hard to talk about without spoiling anything, because for a large part of it, it's this couple just trying to like sit there and wait for somebody to pick them up. There's so much awkward tension between them in this like weird setting as well, so you feel like you don't belong here, and that's the purpose. So they did a good job with that. It's also worth mentioning that I really liked the editing. Again, this is gonna be one of those things that people are either gonna love or they're gonna hate. Sometimes you'd have like the frame kind of move and it would be like a split frame in the middle of the screen, and it was definitely intriguing for me as like a YouTuber because it's like, oh, that's a really cool way of doing this. Does it work in a film narrative? I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool, but I think people could have issue with it. Now I will say, I was in the camp that didn't really like this movie. I didn't necessarily hate it, and I could understand like the good elements, mainly in the production value, but I didn't really like the characters. The acting was pretty good, but like the characters themselves were just kind of like not likable. I think specifically Sam, who is the guy in the relationship. It's like he's just really obnoxious. He blows off Riley and is just doing his own thing. It just seemed really unnatural for him to do, considering they were acting completely different like an hour ago. I mean, of course, this could be attributed to whatever's in the food they're eating. Maybe they're drugged and we don't really know what's happening. Obviously, you can think that it might be something to do with that wheat stuff, and I think that's what you're supposed to think. They're having like these weird hallucinations, including a really trippy segment that I hated, and it was so out of left field, but I can definitely tell that people will like it. It's just too hard to explain. I just have to show you guys and you could just realize like how fucking weird this gets.
What's gonna happen to him? There are moments hanging in the ether that could be mine.
As you might have seen in my likes, like a lot of things I said, I'm like, you might not like this. Like, this is gonna be really, really divisive because not a lot goes on. If you are not invested in the characters, you're gonna be bored because these characters are just sitting at a table, like waiting all night, or like they're sitting on a bed downstairs just waiting. The end goal is for them to eventually leave, but they just don't. And I would have left immediately. Even right out the gate when she's talking to Sam, like she's ignoring Riley and just talking to Sam, like you can tell that something weird's going on here. I would have slept in the car. Now, I don't know exactly what it was about this movie, but I did get bored. It's a little bit longer than it needs to be. Like, it's probably half an hour longer than it should have been, but I couldn't tell you one specific thing that I would have cut out to try and cut the runtime down. But it definitely still felt like it was draining. The third act just keeps going, and it's not as shocking as I think it's meant to be. There's a lot of good stuff here, but there's just nothing new, I guess. Like, it's supposed to be a shocking, disturbing movie, and it's not really. I even put on my audition shirt because I was thinking like, am I gonna make this an Extreme Underground video? And I decided no, because like that audience would laugh at this and be like, this is not disturbing. So at the end of the day, I do think this was a pretty good directorial debut because of like the cinematography, the sound design, the editing choices, the way that the story is told is well done, but I didn't really like it. It likely comes down to the big reveal of what's really happening, and you can see it coming from a mile away. So I just didn't really care. And then throw in some of the weird like hallucination, trippy stuff that just seems so out of place because it only happens once. There's not like multiple hallucinations or anything. It's like this one really weird scene and then stuff like that doesn't happen again. So it's odd. And I think a lot of people will feel the same. I can see the comment section already either saying you're a fucking idiot because this is the best movie ever, or this is garbage. I think that this is a movie that if I revisited maybe like 2 years from now, maybe I'd enjoy it more, but right now I was like not interested. So I'm gonna give this 2 lemon slices out of 5. As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with everything Bloodbath and beyond.